Is I want to introduce Lakshay, who I've already introduced earlier in the semester. Lakshay is a senior MEM, second year MEM. He's taken this class a year ago in the fall. He TA'd for this class in the spring. He TA'd again. He really did an internship with me this summer, where he really did a lot of work and a lot of research around AI and GenAI and GenAI models, and with an emphasis on what does that mean to the product manager. So I'm going to let Lakshay come up and take us through a little bit about his research and some things we both think are important for you guys to understand about GenAI, since it'll be such a significant part of our semester. Yeah, Brian. Welcome.
Raise your hands if you've ever used GenAI and felt frustrated, irritated, or confused with some of the responses that you've received from it. Almost 100%. Well, one of the reasons for that is because sometimes we look at GenAI as a genie out of a bottle and we can just ask it to do whatever we think we want. Some of us look at GenAI as a menu on a restaurant card and think that, oh, these are the choices I have and let me order the best dish. Today I'll show you how we should ideally look at GenAI as a chef that has the right ingredients and the right recipes, and how we can make the most of GenAI to get the dish that we want. So let's start from the basics. What is GenAI? Essentially, GenAI is artificial intelligence that can generate new content for you. This content could be text, images, audio, video, and it does this by analyzing patterns and then uses algorithms to work on those patterns. So what's the hierarchy? Well, in the most broad section, you have artificial intelligence, which is just systems trying to mimic human beings. One step deeper, you have machine learning, which is a part or a subsection of AI where it uses pattern recognition and algorithms to then give you content without you having to program it. One layer deeper, you have deep learning, where it uses neural networks and other systems to then give you more specific content. And lastly, you have GenAI, which is essentially giving you exactly what you want, creates new content out of thin air. So there are various types of GenAI, as I mentioned. There's video generation, image generation, audio, chatbots, code generation, etc. And we're going to look at all of them and examples of them. So how many of you have heard of all of these or have used any of these GenAIs? Okay, give me the highest number from this list that you've used or seen or heard of. 10? 11? 13? 3? Come on, you can do higher than 3.
4.
4?
5.
5? 6? 11? 7? I think we have 11 as the highest.
Who had 11? Wow.
Even
Can't
if
decide.
you have used all of them, you have only used less than 1% of all the tools that are available online today. GenAI is exploding in the market today, and there is so much that you can do with it, and yet we've used less than 1%. So what is the magic behind creating something out of nothing? How do we just write in a prompt and, if I ask a prompt today, if you have heard about the new release from Google, which is the banana, if I give a picture of Professor Richard and I, and if I ask AI to create a picture of us on Mount Everest dancing to a song, it's going to give us a picture of Professor and I dancing to the tune. So how does it create that magic? So there are multiple steps to it. First, you have the foundation, which is training your data. Then you have the architecture, which is transformers. Then you have the learning process, followed by latent space decoding, and then finally the magic, where you feel that it's created something out of nothing. When you type in something in your phone on WhatsApp or your email, it automatically generates the next word for you. Essentially, it has a list of words, and then it uses that word to create the next one or predict the next word. But that is done at a very minute level compared to GenAI. Your phone or your keypad just has 10,000 words if GenAI is 100 billion tokens. So let's start with step 1. The foundation, which is training data. Essentially, GenAI is trained on huge data sets, which is your articles, your textbooks, your online publications, and code repositories, images that are scraped from the internet. But it doesn't store any of this. What it does is it takes all of this data and identifies the pattern that it sees in all of this data. Once it identifies the pattern, it then puts that pattern into billions of parameters, and then these parameters are encoded into the relationship between the images that you have or the words that you have. In 2017, one of the most revolutionary years for anybody in the field of AI was when a paper was published, a research paper called Attention is All You Need. Attention is All You Need sort of challenged the status quo at that time by saying that instead of using neural networks that you currently use, instead of trying to find patterns and trying to program things, it's much better if you use the concept of self-attention, which essentially is identifying the relationship between words. So let's take a sentence, for example. So the sentence is, the cat sat on the mat because it was tired. So when we were in elementary school, we know what subject to relate the word it to. We know that the sentence is talking about the cat. It's not talking about the mat. It's not talking about anything else. But how does GenAI understand this? The reason it's able to understand it is because it's able to find the relationship between words, and it's able to encode that relationship. And that is what self-attention is about. It's about understanding the attention that the AI has for each and every word or each and every phrase within the text or the prompt. Once you have this relationship, then you create layers and layers of this relationship, and you have a huge latent space, which is the next point.
So as you move on, so an interesting test there would be to see how does the response change if the expression because it was soft. The cat sat on the mat because it was soft.
Yeah.
It in that circumstance just changed.
Yeah.
Right? Because now it's the mat that's soft, and so as you're using GenAI, think about and consider those kinds of tests to see if the GenAI is giving you the kind of answer that you want.
That's a really good point, because through that we segue into the next part, which is token prediction. Essentially, if the sentence is the sky is blank, and now it's GenAI's job to find the next part of the sentence. The sky can be blue, the sky can be pink, the sky can be anything. But the most probable answer and the highest probability is blue. And that's the word that it suggests, and that's how it prepares its next sentence. Mind you, The Sky is Pink is also a movie, and so pink is a viable option, which means that the prediction is not 0 for pink, but it is a small or minimal number. Another example is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, after the third comma, there is an option of 4 because it has the highest probability, but it can also be and, it can also be 5, it can also be or. And all of these probability distributions are added to a table, and GenAI analyzes these probability distributions and then gives you the next word that you're going to use. Now, the latent space is a complicated concept if you don't understand space. So think of space, right? In the universe, you have thousands of planets and stars and comets and all of these things existing simultaneously close to each other, some so far away from each other. The latent space is somewhat like that. It's a vector space in which all the content and all the concepts, every image it has pulled, every code it has pulled, every text, every word, all of this exists in a universe. And all of these words are placed in space. Now, the way AI identifies the relationship between these words is by seeing the distance between two of these words or two of the concepts that exist in space, which means that if the word king and if the word man are closer to each other, the probability of linking them together and adding them in a sentence is the highest, which means AI understands that their relationship is the highest, and therefore that's how it reads the context of a sentence. So similarly, for woman and queen, for cat and dog, all of these words exist together. So every time you give a prompt, like for example, if the prompt is draw a cat in Van Gogh style, at that point of time, it looks at all the pictures that it has of cats. It sees which one is the most relevant, which one is the closest that it can get to the sentence and to the prompt, and it combines all of those efforts together to then create your data. So all of this feels like imagination or creating something out of nothing, but essentially it's all a game of probability, and it's all a game of how close words and concepts are in a vector space. Lastly, what it does is it decodes all of this together to then finally give you your product. And this is the final stage. In the beam search, it searches multiple paths before finally committing. If you give AI a sophisticated prompt and you ask it to search all of the patterns and give a creative answer, it does go through 100 billion patterns. And that's why you see today, when you ask ChatGPT a question, sometimes it says it's thinking deeper, because it's analyzing all the possible existing patterns and connections that it can to then give you the most creative solution. If you don't look for a creative solution, and if you just ask a simple prompt, it's going to give you the first thing that it finds in its latent vector space. So I want you to think of GenAI as a chef, right? When a chef is cooking something, what do they need first? They need their ingredients. Your ingredients is the data. Now, if I ask you to make pasta and I give you all the ingredients that are needed to make a pasta, you might make a great pasta, provided you have a good recipe and you know how to cook a pasta. But if I don't give you salt, and if I don't give you oil, and if I don't give you pasta sauce, you're not going to make any pasta. Mind you, if you do, then you're probably God, but sure. The thing is that data is the backbone for GenAI and for any output that it gives you. To generate any content, it has to have enough data to analyze patterns and then give you the result. The second thing is the recipe. Now let's say that the chef has all the ingredients, but a chef does not know what the recipe for the pasta is. And the chef is not going to make a good pasta because they're going to put different ingredients in different order and they're not going to be able to give you the right output, which means the recipe or the model or the algorithm, which I just talked to you about, is equally important, because it's vital for the AI to understand in what order to use the data, in what order to use the ingredients. And that's why different AI gives you different answers to different prompts. Perplexity is not going to give you the same answer as ChatGPT. Claude is not going to give you the same answer. Neither is Midjourney. Even ChatGPT 5 and 4 are going to give you different answers. The reason for that is because that the data that's training it, or the algorithm that's being used, is constantly updating. Next is finally cooking, which is the training of the data and the process. In order to finally make the pasta, even if you have the recipe, you have to cook it well. You have to put it for the right amount of time on your gas. You have to let the water soak. You have to make sure you put the right amount of ingredients, etc., etc. And you have to go about eventually doing it. And finally, the dish served is the output. So let's take an example and let me show you a very basic prompt and what the working behind this prompt is. Let's say that I want the prompt of a cat riding a skateboard in Times Square. It's a weird prompt. Don't ask me why I wanted that, but that's just an example. How does AI look at this? The first thing AI does is it takes each and every word in a sentence and starts looking for those words in its vector space, in its latent space. So it looks for cats. It has 100 billion pictures of cats. There are so many different types of cats and they exist all over the internet. It picks one out of those and then it adds it to its rendering data. Next, it picks skateboards. It then picks the pictures of Times Squares, and then finally it combines all of them into one picture, and what you get is a beautiful cat riding a skateboard in Times Square. But the fascinating part about this picture is not that it was able to create it out of nothing. The most fascinating part is, why did it pick this specific cat? There are so many different types of cats. There are hundreds of breeds. There are so many colors. Not just the cat, the skateboard. Why did it pick a black skateboard? Why did it pick a skateboard of this length? Why is there a Coca-Cola ad in the background? Why is there not an ad of Nike or a TV show or anything else? So I decided to ask ChatGPT itself. I'm like, hey ChatGPT, why did you pick these things? Like, give me a reason why you picked this cat. And what I explained earlier comes out here. ChatGPT simply tells me that you did not ask me for a creative response. All you did was ask me for a cat and a skateboard and Times Square. The most popular cat in United States is this one. The most popular color for a cat is this one. The average skateboard in the United States is black, and the most popular company that advertises on Times Square is Coca-Cola. And that's why I gave you this picture. What if I was more specific? What if I asked ChatGPT, hey, listen, I want this particular type of cat that weighs this much, has this much hair, or comes from this particular breed. This is the type of skateboard I want, and this is the type of advertisement, or this is the time of day I want. It's not going to give me a picture of a cat at night. It's probably going to give me a picture of a cat right in front of a store in the middle of the day. And all of this depends on how specific you are with your prompt. The more specific you are, the better results you get. The more vague you are, the more you allow AI to look at hundreds and billions of concepts that exist in its vector space and shoot out the most probable answer for you. But there are limits of GenAI, right? I mean, it's not a genie out of a bottle. It's still a chef that you have to give the right ingredients to and you have to cater to. So what are the limitations? Hallucinations is a big one. In one of the previous classes, Professor explained that GenAI does hallucinate. And the reason it hallucinates is because it either does not have strong data to back it up, or because your prompt was very vague, or because of GenAI's dying need to satisfy all your commands. Because GenAI treats you like it's a mother and you are the son that it's proud of the most, right? You will always constantly get response, hey, that's a great idea. Oh, wow, that's a wonderful thing. Let me give you 10 different things on this, rather than actually giving you exactly what you need. But what does this mean for a product manager? And how can you go about implementing this for yourself? The first thing that you can do is use GenAI for discovery and insight, which means user interviews, jobs to be done, competitor analysis, user journey roadmap. As a product manager, it's very important for you to understand the pain points of the customer. As Professor always says, fall in love with the problem and not the solution. Unless and until you interview enough people, you won't understand if enough people are facing the problem. Because of the amount of data that exists online with GenAI, you can do thousands of user interviews with GenAI. You can do thousands of discovery interviews, create roadmaps, create journeys, and all of this together to get a clear understanding of what the problem is in status quo that people face. The next thing is you can do strategy and prioritization. You can ask GenAI to use concepts like rice and ice, which you will be learning about feature prioritization later, which is understanding the reach, the impact, the confidence, and the effort it takes for you to get a customer and for the product to be built, right? These kind of things are things that you can ask GenAI. Other things are specs and design, analytics, go-to-market strategies, and ops and governance. Basically use AI for anything that you would take more than an hour to do yourself, in terms of collecting data, in terms of organizing data, in terms of creating any PowerPoint or creating Excels, etc., etc. You can create PRDs with this, you can create OKRs and whatnot. GenAI has been growing at an exponential rate. In 2023, the number of companies that were using GenAI was 33%, but today that number has doubled. And as I'm speaking, there are more companies using GenAI. It's gone to 71%, and I think 71% is still less because today some company has just decided that they're going to use GenAI as part of their workflow. The cost and speed have also changed. It was 0.01 for 1,000 tokens of input, and now it's 0.005 for 1K token of input. The speed has doubled and the cost have become half, which means that more and more people are using GenAI, and if you don't use GenAI, then you're already on the back foot because it is faster and it is cheaper to get results. In terms of the capability, GenAI is now more capable because it has larger number of tokens you can use, it has more data to give you the solutions for your prompt for, and it has a larger context window as well. So how do you keep up with all of this? As a PM, it's frightening to know that there is so much data out there and there are so many different types of GenAI and all of them are constantly improving. And if you don't keep up with it, then eventually you will fall behind. So what do? Well, you make GenAI part of your daily routine. Everything that you do, start using GenAI and use it for the right way. Now, I'm not saying use GenAI to cheat something or create erroneous things, but use GenAI for your daily tasks. As a PM, there are a lot of things that you're going to draft. You're going to draft documents, you're going to draft your Excels, you're going to do research. Start using GenAI and make it part of your routine. The second thing you can do is that create a workflow and design success matrix, which means when you use GenAI, you should know whether or not the response is a good response or a bad response. You should start understanding the pattern that GenAI uses, and that's how you're going to get faster with the use of GenAI. Next is upgrade your stack. Don't just rely on one type of AI. Don't just rely on ChatGPT. Don't just rely on Perplexity. There are hundreds and millions of tools out there. Start upgrading your stack. Start learning more and more about different types of GenAI. Start exploring them and start seeing which one suits which one for the best function. And lastly, keep your skills up to date and current. Read the Stanford AI Index, skim through enterprise surveys, and follow all the major releases. Every time any AI or any company makes a release, read their description, read their release, and start experimenting with it. Let me give you an example. Let me go back. Yeah. So this is Synthesia. Synthesia is a GenAI tool that creates videos for you. So what I did was I asked Synthesia, can you create a PowerPoint presentation for me on GenAI? And this is what it came up with. With a one-line prompt, within a matter of minutes, it was able to create an entire video, an entire 3-minute presentation on what GenAI is, and it had someone present it to me, which means that the work that would have taken a week for me to complete, including research, including speaking and recording, is now done by AI. I don't know if you can hear her.
Generative AI stands out because it doesn't just analyze data. It creates new content. These technologies are
All of this was created within a matter of minutes. It's not only video generation, but it's also image generation. These are 3 different images that I asked 3 different types of AI. I asked Stable Diffusion, OpenArt, and ChatGPT 5 to give me a crowded fish market in which people are walking with their dogs. Can anyone tell me the differences between the 3 images? And what do you think is the reason why these 3 images are different? And why didn't AI just give me 3 similar images? Yeah.
Based on the data sets the AI is trained upon.
Correct. Can you tell me a big difference between these 3 images?
Locations.
Correct. Location is a big factor for GenAI. Any AI is trained based on the data that it uses from its particular location. The center image is an image of probably in Asia. The right is somewhere in Europe, and the left even I don't know where it is because it's very vague. So the reason it's giving you different images is because of the different locations the company works on, the different data it contains, and the different day-to-day activities that are seen within that location. I gave the exact same prompt to 3 different AIs, and all of them gave me a different answer. 2 of them picked evenings, 1 of them picked early morning, but all of them have given me a narrow, crowded street. The more creative you get with it, the more creative GenAI gives you, the more creative outputs GenAI gives you. What about audio generation? Can I create audios? Well, yeah, definitely. 11 Labs lets you create audio, and it lets you create that audio in anybody's voice, which means I can create a song sung by Professor Richard, and I can play it. I won't do that because that's illegal, but I can do that. I can do that in my voice as well. There are hundreds of options there, and as you can see, I've picked 2 of them, and I've said, hey class, I hope you enjoyed my lecture and make use of GenAI in the right way. While you read all the fun facts that exist about GenAI, one thing I would like to say at the end is that GenAI is growing at such a rapid pace, and it's so difficult for us to keep up. As a product manager, it is vital that you keep up with GenAI, because at the end of the day, it's about understanding your customers' pain points, your needs, and what their problem is, and then coming up with a solution for them. The more you understand GenAI, the more confident you'll feel playing around with it, and the better you are going to be when you enter the field and become a product manager. Thank you, everyone.